Support for this show comes from Lead Quizzes. Lead Quizzes helps you easily set up high-converting quizzes to capture and qualify leads for your business. Visit leadquizzes.com/podcast to get a 14-day free trial today.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of months and, I think it was closer to a year where, I wasn't getting paid and, I had to keep putting food on the table for everybody else that I was employing at the time. So yeah, it was tough early on to really survive as a digital agency. And I think I might have scaled it up a little bit too fast in terms of taking on more than I could chew or my team could chew.
From Lead Quizzes, it's Journey to Seven Figures, a show about entrepreneurs and the stories behind how they grew their business to seven figures and beyond. We cover the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the lessons they learned along the way. All right, so welcome back to Journey to Seven Figures. Today I'm interviewing Roy Morejon. Roy is the co-founder and president of Eventys Partners, which is an agency that combines product development with crowdfunding marketing platforms like Kickstarter to raise money and awareness. They've helped their clients raise over $150 million through crowdfunding, and last year they generated over $10 million in revenue. Very excited to interview Roy today and learn from his journey. Roy, welcome to the show.
Jeremy, pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me, man.
Awesome. Yeah, so we got a lot to cover today, so let's jump right in. So let's take it back to 2011 when you started an agency that ultimately kind of like merged with Eventys Partners. So let's talk about Command Partners, your digital marketing agency. How did you get that started?
Yeah, so Command Partners was started after I sold my previous agency, B2We, where that was, more focused on social media training for the Fortune 500 here in Charlotte. 2007 was the heyday for social media and everybody wanted to get on board, and a lot of the corporations had no idea how to use it or profit from it or retain or recruit new people for it. So I did a lot of training for that for about 3 years before I started Command Partners. And Command Partners was really the addition of an expert in PR, where basically I had social media and SEO covered in terms of skill sets, but really needed that PR arm to basically triangulate and bring in all of those high authority backlinks coming into my site so that I could outrank all my competitors. So grew that basically out of my basement, just like my first agency, to having to actually have an office and W-2 employees and all that kind of stuff. But really, it was a full-service digital agency. We were doing all the things that all the other inbound marketing companies were kind of doing. And fortunately, my SEO background really allowed us to rank well for a lot of the keywords and services that we were providing. So fortunately, I got us to rank on the first page for startup marketing and social media marketing. And a company that was running an active Kickstarter campaign contacted us and said, hey, listen, we've got this technology, but I have no idea how to find more customers. Can you guys help us out? So they had 2 weeks left in their campaign, and we ended up doing some PR and some paid advertising for them and ended up doubling their funding for just 2 weeks worth of work. We got a sizable check out of that. And we were like, all right, there's something here. And I really enjoyed always working with startups, and big business really wasn't attractive to me anymore. So being able to be nimble and agile for all of these companies was really exciting. So we did that, we dove in, and now 600 campaigns later, we've got about 70 employees now, and we're running, campaigns every single day for a lot of different genres and categories in terms of products and new inventions that people are bringing to life. So a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago now, we ended up merging with Eventys, which was a product development firm a mile away from our offices. And since we had hundreds of people contacting us every day with their idea on a napkin, we basically were just giving away all of that business, saying, hey, listen, come back to us when you actually have a prototype or a product or just some idea of a working thing, whatever it may be. And we would just send all of those clients over to Eventys. And basically we're like, hey, listen, we've got a great opportunity here to be a turnkey product launch company, the only one in the world where basically you can come to us with the idea. We can do the prototyping, the research, the IP, the trademark, build that prototype, do all of your branding and marketing and content around that, launch your product out there, raise capital for you, and then do the production and potentially the manufacturing, shipping, logistics, all of those things for you. So you can just bring us ideas and we'll bring your product to market for you. So that's kind of been the genesis of what I've been doing for the last 10 plus years.
Awesome. All right. I think that's a great setup. So let's rewind this a little bit. So when you first started in 2011, how long did it take you until you got this first crowdfunding campaign where you guys thought maybe this is something that we should do?
So that was about a year and a half in. And really, there were a lot of struggles. And I know your audience really is all about the struggle and the hustle for Gary Vee, right? And there was a lot of struggle to really be unique, obviously I have the skill set and the bones basically to be able to rank these customers and clients and all of that, but it's uber competitive. And usually it's a race to the bottom. And that wasn't something I really wanted to be a part of, but I had to grow and I had to have employees to do all these other things that I could delegate that work out and not actually do, the hardcore coding and link building and all of those things that you had to do on the SEO side back then. And really it was a struggle to diversify and find enough clients that were willing to pay monthly retainers, where that kind of business model has nearly gone away now. And I was never someone that wanted to bill clients based on ad spend, because I think that's a terrible model as well. So it was really tough to differentiate outside of the experts that we had in staff, besides myself and my co-founder at the time, and some of the other employees that we had were really good, but it was really difficult to get those retainers. And there were times where I wasn't getting paychecks for months and months, if not a year, where I'd have to, take capital out, and get loans from other people and just pay the bills every month, every week, where, it was a constant struggle until basically crowdfunding kind of saved the day, if you will, in terms of being able to pivot when I saw an opportunity there and really go in and be one of the first crowdfunding marketing agencies in the world. And now we're the largest. We've run the most campaigns, had the most $1 million success, put dozens of clients on Shark Tank, where it's really fun to sit back now and recollect, Jeremy, where we used to be.
Awesome. So I think you go through something a lot of like agencies and small businesses do at first, especially with services. It's so easy to get started and just start taking whatever clients come to you. But you were like going through a lot of those challenges of, like you said, it was hard to find monthly retainers. It was really difficult to differentiate. I'm sure it was hard to get referred to because people were like, oh, I know these guys, they do social media, but there's like 100 other social media companies out there. That's awesome. So you guys got this first client in, and that was like an inbound lead, someone saying that they wanted help with this Kickstarter marketing.
Correct. Yeah. So they Googled startup marketing, found our site, filled out our form. We contacted them that day. We're like, what is crowdfunding? What is Kickstarter? We're like, oh yeah, we can do marketing for you. So we learned as we went. And basically the client knew nothing else. They're like, hey, you guys landed us these massive PR hits from TechCrunch to the Wall Street Journal and a couple others just on reaching out to some of our contacts in the industry. We ran a paid ads campaign for them, people that were looking for these types of products. And basically, like I said, doubled their sales for 2 weeks into a campaign, got a nice commission check out of it. We kind of dove in terms of, okay, let's understand this audience a little bit more. What does it look like? These are all early adopters. So how do we find those folks? Where do they hang out? What are they Googling? What are they searching for? And how do we really start building a community around these tech products, fashion products, whatever that we've been working with over the last 7+ years?
Okay. So let's talk about that. So you had this one success. You said you doubled the amount that they raised. Do you remember how much like they had raised and then what you brought them to?
Yeah, I think they had done about $50K on their own for about 3 to 4 weeks worth of work. And then we came in with about 2 weeks left and we did about another $50,000 with a mix of PR and advertising for them.
Okay. And then was it basically like the same type of services you were already providing, or was there something you were doing differently now?
No, this is brand new, like brand new contract, brand new idea of what we were going to do. So basically we charged them, a flat fee for services and basically paid for the cost of, putting the man hours in. And then on the back end, we were like, hey, we should take a commission based off of what we're able to do and bring in for it. There was no contracts like that anywhere else that we had been able to see. So we kind of created that model, if you will, in terms of taking a fee plus a commission on the back end based on what we raise.
And so for this client and for other clients, do you remember what the flat fee was? I mean, did you like have a lower fee so that they would be more enticed to do the commissions, or how did that structure?
Yeah, I mean, any of these companies that are running a startup, right? Any companies that are running a Kickstarter campaign, usually they're broke. They have no money and they really require a lot of attention. And unfortunately, you can't give them all the attention if they're not paying any money. So I want to say, we took them on probably for like $1,000 maybe back then.
Okay.
And then I want to say for a commission, we probably took like 15% of the raise going forward. So the $50K that we brought in, that was a 15% commission on that plus the upfront fee. So we paid for our time for just 2 weeks worth of work where we were doing, all of these other retained clients and doing their social or the SEO for them for, less than that. So we're like, oh, this is great. It was less work and we made more money. Let's go down this path.
Yeah. And that's a killer offer. And I think like a lot of people, like you said, they're like broker in that position where it's just way easier to go off of like, you get paid if you deliver results.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we're performance driven these days where the majority of our clients are actually coming to us with no money and we're fronting their entire advertising bill. So we're saying, yes, we believe in your product and we'll spend as much money as possible to make sure there's a positive return for both of us. And that hopefully you can deliver your product if we overfund your campaign even more where now you have to deliver more product based on, what your roadmap looked like.
Okay. So you guys had this one great crowdfunding project. How did you start getting more after that?
Content and SEO. So basically we started writing content around it. We started doing some SEO around the site. We got it to rank, on the first page now, where pretty much we're in position 0 for 7 of our top 10 keywords. There's a couple more that we're going after this quarter that our competitors have. But overall, we've worked diligently on the SEO side and the content side, where really we're the only crowdfunding marketing company producing consistent content about what we're doing every single day on our host of sites, where we run and manage about a dozen sites that we're posting content on there, just education. Because crowdfunding is still so new and it's a new term and there really aren't that many people on it. I mean, Kickstarter has less than 15 million backers overall, and only a third of them have actually backed more than one campaign. So for us, it's still very early. It's an education. So we're constantly putting out content, creating video courses, doing podcasts and video engagements like this to really just educate what's going on, and that there is an opportunity for any company out there to run a crowdfunding campaign, whether it be, reward-based with a physical product or potentially equity-based now with the Jobs Act, in place, where any of these startups that are seeing some traction but need some capital and a bank won't give it to them. Equity crowdfunding, we've done about a dozen of those campaigns with great success when companies can show that they are moving the needle, but they're looking for, outside investment, not necessarily from a VC or an angel.
Okay. So you guys do a lot of content. Is that what you did like right after this first project you guys worked on? That's how you started getting crowdfunding project 2 and 3 and up to 10?
Well, we started actually reaching out to customers, campaigns that were active on Kickstarter. So Kickstarter actually allowed you to message the creator of the project. And we would go into verticals and categories that we had experience in, mostly in fashion, outdoor, tech products, and design products. Those are really the 4 main categories that we have experience in, especially on the e-commerce side and driving revenue. We're like, hey, listen, we already know this stuff. We can talk about this space. And it's easier for us to get PR for these clients because it's all new technology. So there's definitely a strong PR angle there. So we started approaching people through, messaging them directly on Kickstarter saying, hey, listen, we just did this one campaign. This is what we did for success rates for it. Are you interested? And that really got a lot of people going, where it's like, oh, really cool. Okay. I didn't know that was something that we could do. Or, a lot of them pretend to have in-house marketing capabilities, but don't know enough to basically be able to find customers for their product and convince them to pre-purchase a product that doesn't exist yet. So there's a large enough learning curve of, oh, what's Kickstarter? What's this mean when I back a project? Kind of like eBay in the late 90s, right? When you click on place a bid. What did that mean? Do I get the product? When's it coming? We're so accustomed to Amazon and 2-day shipping. It's very different, that crowdfunding mentality of backing a project and waiting a year or 2 potentially for the product to actually ship and deliver.
Okay, awesome. So I really like this. So you developed a pretty compelling offer. Did you kind of stick with this lower flat fee and commission to start building up those case studies and first customers?
Yeah, so every campaign was usually in a different place. Some of them were doing it really, really well, already getting a lot of coverage. So those guys were a lot harder to convert. Early on, we're like, listen, no, we've already got that. We've got this. So really it was a matter of, okay, let's find out what moves the needle for these guys and what gets them to agree to at least communicate with us. So we tested a lot of different subject lines when we were messaging them and content in the message that we were sending over to them. And there was a time where we sent too many messages and they marked us as spam. And then we had to talk to Kickstarter and be like, all right, I'm sorry, I won't do that again. We're reaching out to too many people, basically advertising or trying to pitch these guys. And they're like, no, you're not here to help my campaign. You're here to take money away from my wallet. We're like, no, I swear, we're here to help. We just did it for these guys and those guys now. So we started building up that list and building testimonials and people that would say, yeah, these guys were great, you should hire them. And like I said, Kickstarter is a very small community and they talk. All the creators talk to each other. Basically, what are your best tips? Do you mind doing a cross promotion with my campaign? So really, we treated it as a community, and you have to nurture and give value to the community before you can go in and ask them for their money, basically. So we really took that to heart in terms of how we were growing and scaling and trying to, find more and more customers that could potentially use our service as we continue to pivot our agency at the same time down this path.
Yeah, awesome. So you guys created an outbound campaign where basically you found a list of these people that were kind of fit this niche you wanted to go into, started building testimonials and case studies. You started testing the messaging that would actually get them to respond. And you guys had this compelling offer around results basis, or at least some kind of model around that. And that's what really started building your customer base, right?
Yeah, it was. Again, we were still doing all the digital marketing stuff on the retainer side, like all the other agencies on the other side. And we had to start growing out. Okay, this looks like it's getting legs. We need to build out a team now to be able to handle campaigns and figure out what that team structure looks like. So we started building out, our first pod basically of an account manager, a project manager, a PR person, a social media person, an advertising person, and a web and analytics person. So basically we had 6 or 7 people per team that could handle, I think at that time it was about 8 projects, full service, whether we were doing everything for them or a la carte, if we were just doing, say, PR and advertising for them. So really it was starting to build that team structure as well, which was a growing pain on its own of understanding what are the needs of these clients. And the unfortunate side of running a Kickstarter campaign is basically you see the worst of anybody because this is their baby. This is their best idea. You can't tell them that it's ugly, and everybody wants to buy one in their mind. So for us, it's, hey, the audience isn't converting. People don't like it. Your price is too high. Your colors suck. All the litany of, reasons why people aren't buying it. The project creators have a hard time with that. And I think that's the same for any business that's out there, right? They think everybody should be buying their service. Everyone should be buying their product, whatever it may be. You come to a realization, and you have to have that discussion with your client at any time. Like, hey, listen, this is what we're doing. This is what we're seeing. I forget who said it, but it's like that knife in a gunfight, right? You don't bring an opinion to a data fight. And it's the same thing for this. I mean, the data speaks everything to a campaign, especially when we're doing paid advertising and traffic. When you send 10,000 visitors to a page and only 100 of them buy it, there's something wrong with it. Whatever it may be, price point, color, features, etc., or just not targeting the right audience. Usually that's not the case. But again, there's a lot of hurdles that we have to overcome with crowdfunding itself.
Okay. So you're like setting some expectations with these clients. Like, what is the best way you guys have found that to like set expectations around the results that they're going to get, the whole process around testing and that kind of thing?
So on the results side, it's always interesting in terms of here's now, because we've done hundreds and hundreds of campaigns, we can say, okay, based on this campaign in this category, these are the other ones that we've worked on. This is what they raised. This is what our cost per acquisition was, et cetera. This is how much we spent on advertising. Because when we run campaigns now, it's almost entirely advertising based. We have to interrupt our audience, find out where they're hanging out, and just swarm them with advertising and messaging and content and imagery and video and all of those things basically that we're just inundated with as consumers. But us on the marketing side, we're responsible for it all. So there's definitely a balance there. But really, it is a conversation you have to have all the time in terms of being transparent with what's going on in the campaign and how things are going, especially when you're spending a client's money and saying, hey, these aren't converting. This is what we're testing. This is a copy. This is the imagery. This is the landing page. All of these things can be tested and run multiple variations on. And if it's not converting, you've got to have that conversation with your customer, whoever it is, especially on the agency side of, listen, there's only so much that we can do for this. I'm sorry it's not converting, or maybe you shouldn't quit your day job and go into this new entrepreneurial thing that you wanted to do all of a sudden because nobody wants to buy it. I'm sorry. So we're usually the ones that have to break that news to these people because their friends and family will never do that. Mm-hmm. And we're usually the first ones to tell them that their baby's ugly.
Okay. And then so how do you guys go out and like make sure you select the right clients? Because I'm sure, especially when you're starting out, like I had this, my experience ourselves, you don't necessarily know what's going to work or what's not. You have like an idea of like, these are the, like you said, I'm going to be in the crowdfunding niche. I'm going to select these different industries and verticals, but each product is all different. So how do you make sure that you guys select the right clients, especially when you were earlier on and didn't have all the data on what works?
Yeah. So early on, it was tough. We were taking everything and anything that would basically allow us to say, yes, we'll take you on and try you out. So we were doing stuff for films and documentaries and musicians and stuff we had no right running campaigns for, honestly. If any of my clients are listening to this, they'll be like, yeah, that's right. Roy was right. We shouldn't have done that with him. But, again, it's a learning curve. So we kind of selected everything and just whatever we could pay the bills with, honestly, we would take on and run. But there was a huge learning curve, and it was a mistake for us to be that wide in terms of category of product that we should have been taking on. Where now we're very hyper-focused, if you will, in terms of just a couple campaigns and categories that we're experts in, like fashion, the outdoor, the tech, the design, anything that's in those categories, we crush. And that's really what we focus in on now, because we'll get 100 or so leads per day of people saying, hey, Roy, how about my campaign? And we'll look at it and we're like, maybe you're not there yet, or you didn't do the marketing work that you were supposed to do, or you didn't read all of our blogs or listen to the podcast or any of that kind of stuff of work that has to be done before you launch, because this is probably the hardest marketing campaign that's out there in terms of pre-selling a product that doesn't exist yet. And there's a clock. And all of this work has to go in before you launch this thing, where usually this is like a year-long type campaign that you'll do for any other client, but you only have 30 days, 45 days to run this active Kickstarter campaign. And it's very difficult if you don't do the work ahead of time. And I think that's the same way for anything that you're launching out there in the world, whether it be digital marketing or just a product launch in a physical location. There's a lot of pre-launch work that just needs to be done in order to have success, whatever that success or KPI may look like. And a lot of people are just lazy. They just think, oh, if I build it, the crowd will come. And unfortunately, in this day and age, we are all too busy these days to just find something and want to buy something. We've got to be influenced multiple times usually before we have that zero moment of truth where we're like, all right, confirm, buy it, move on with my day.
Yeah, I think we'll come back to that in a second. What you said around like, you guys would take on anybody that you could and you just kind of figured it out. I don't really know if there's a better approach to do that. Like I know with our agency, we did the same thing, but we took the approach of we're building case studies and we're going to offer you a discounted price off of what we would normally offer. And then you just go out and test it and just kind of be transparent around like, I'm not sure, like we have this case study to back it up. And it sounds like that's kind of the same strategy or model that you guys used.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we practice radical transparency with all of our clients, and you have to be that way this day and age. Unfortunately, you're just never going to get their trust. So we were like, hey, we've never done this type of campaign, but we've had success in Kickstarter or whatever in crowdfunding marketing. We've gotten placements in these places, so we'll try. We'll give it a shot. I'll give you the discount. We'll take a small percentage off the raise and just play it out with us kind of. We're both learning here. This is your first campaign. This is my 50th campaign maybe. So I'm still, getting the rust off. But now we've got a well-oiled machine basically at this point that's like clockwork. When a new client comes in or contacts us, all of our case studies, a lot of our case studies are published on our site. Everything's out there for the open. And like I said, we're very transparent with everything that goes on internally and externally for our company.
Okay. We'll get back to the show in a minute, but first a quick thanks to our sponsor, Lead Quizzes. If you want to grow your business to 7 figures and beyond, you must learn how to generate leads predictably. When I first started my business, lead generation felt like riding a roller coaster. I would have huge sales months and then months with nothing. This happened because I relied solely on referrals and networking to grow my business. Predicting growth and investing in the future were frightening because I didn't have control over my lead generation. That was before we created Lead Quizzes. Now I predictably generate leads in my sleep and have stopped worrying about where the next sale will come from. Top marketers like Neil Patel and Lewis House have used Lead Quizzes to increase their lead capture by up to 500%. Think about it. Quizzes are fun, engaging, and you can offer personalized feedback in exchange for your quiz taker's contact information. Lead Quizzes is a software that allows you to set up high-converting quizzes quickly without having to hire an expensive programmer. In fact, our users have generated over 3 million leads for their businesses. Take control of your lead generation today and start your 14-day free trial by going to leadquizzes.com/podcast. Awesome. So you guys have this outbound approach. Did that approach basically get you guys to $1 million, like continue to just bring on clients either through your outbound reaching to these different campaigns as well as the referrals, or what did?
Yeah, so hitting the first $1 million, so that definitely was more crowdfunding success in terms of commissions on the campaigns than doing digital retainer work. We were never built, unfortunately, to get to $1 million or 60 to 70K a month in recurring revenue on the agency side. And the crowdfunding side, we would have one project that would pay us a 6-figure commission check based off of all the work we would do, and that would be 1 month, right? And then we were able to do 5 or 6 campaigns at any given time. And we would count on commissions at that point because we were getting better at what we were doing. We were raising more money and thus collecting more capital for it. So really it was a surprise to me because, trust me, I wanted my digital agency to work more than anything else. And crowdfunding was just started kicking butt and taking names. And, I had to, eventually pivot my mindset and my thought leadership side of things onto the crowdfunding side, where now it's been able to really allow us to grow into an 8-figure company.
Okay. So with the model that you guys have, like you guys have these huge commission checks that come in when a campaign goes really well. Do you see big spikes up and down in your revenue or like earlier on, or how did you like balance that out, maybe add recurring revenue to that?
Yeah, so we've done a few different things. There is some seasonality to crowdfunding itself. Usually we'll see lulls potentially end of August, September, when everybody goes back to school. And usually the purse strings get a little bit tighter when you got to purchase all that stuff for the kiddos to get back to school. Mm-hmm. And then usually during the holidays, right? So end of November through December, that's usually when everybody's spending money on product that actually exists so that they can give it as gifts. So there is a little bit of a cycle there, but everything then picks right back up in January when we're at the Consumer Electronics Show and we're launching 20 or 30 new companies at that show just that week. So there is a little bit of cyclical, in terms of ups and downs, but overall it's balanced out now with our product development side as well, where we're constantly producing products for, large companies as well as entrepreneurs that are looking to potentially launch in the summer months or the fall months as well. So now it's fairly consistent every single month revenue-wise for us.
Okay. All right. So yeah, let's fast forward a little bit. So you guys started Command Partners in 2011, got into Kickstarter, like these crowdfunding campaigns about a year and a half into it. In 27, you have this opportunity to basically merge with Eventys. You want to walk us through like what your thought process was on doing that?
Yeah. So, again, it was kind of the opportunity to really help out startups and entrepreneurs. Many of them were making mistakes in terms of manufacturing their product and going through the process of filing trademarks or patents around it, and they were getting ripped off. There's a lot of companies out there, direct TV company, direct response TV companies that were basically saying, oh, look at this campaign. It's raising a bunch of money. Turn the factory on and make that product before they do, because we can beat them to market. Mm-hmm. And we started seeing that a lot. And unfortunately, it happened to one of our clients, one of our early successes for a product called Bunch of Balloons. Basically, Josh Malone created this awesome invention and we crowdfunded it, made $1 million. He was the first active Kickstarter campaign ever on national television. And basically, once we got him on TV, then like some of these companies are like, ooh, this is going to be a huge hit. So a couple companies ripped him off. And basically, finally, he just got his settlement with the Supreme Court for, I think it was like a $15 million settlement. But still, he's fighting this now because somebody ripped his product off. And we didn't want to see that happen to any other entrepreneur ever again if they were going to work with us and do manufacturing and all those things. Because this, again, is their baby. This is their best idea that they potentially come up with. And it could be a long-term revenue stream for them and their kids and everything like that. And we want to give them the best opportunity possible to truly bring a product to market. And I want to value every single backer that came into this campaign that gave them money on just the idea. Just this product may come to life. I'm going to give them my $20 or $50 or $100, whatever it may be. Go along for the journey through their project updates. And hopefully I get the product as soon as I can. But there were a lot of entrepreneurs that were missing that step and spending a lot of money and time where they shouldn't have been. And it was just an easy opportunity for us to merge with someone that was already doing this, had 15 years of product development experience and licensing and doing all of those logistical nightmare things that a first-time entrepreneur is going to go crazy on, because there's just a very steep learning curve, just like with marketing, of understanding all of that, understanding product development and sourcing and everything else, manufacturing and shipping and logistics. That is a nightmare all on its own. And we wanted to alleviate at least as many concerns as we could for clients that were using us for every room in our building, from the marketing, the branding, and the prototyping, and the IP and the trademarking and all of those things. And really, it made sense for the industry itself for us to be the first ones to do this and bring this opportunity to market to be a turnkey product launch company.
Awesome. And then, so what were like your guys' individual revenues when you guys came to this merge? Do you remember?
Yeah, at the time we were about the same. So really it was easy for us to come in and say, okay, let's just merge together. So I believe it's what's called a vertical merger, where basically our revenues were pretty much the same. We came in and split everything 50-50. So Command Partners still lives on and Eventys still lives on. And then we started the new entity, Eventys Partners, together.
Awesome. Okay. And I think it shows the power of niching down too, because a lot of people are scared about it, but I think you'd probably never have come up with this idea of bringing in this different partner if you guys didn't go down the route of crowdfunding.
Yeah, I knew nothing about product development, right? I know everything about marketing, but I think product development is a whole nother beast, on its own. And it's expensive to bring a product to market. I think people take a lot of this for granted, for just a product to get shipped to you, in 2 days. Like there were 2 to 20 years of product development before that product actually got made, manufactured, QA tested, UL approved, whatever it may be, before you're actually able to get it in your home. And it costs a lot of money to tool up. And I think a lot of people are under the misconception like, oh, it can just be made very quickly and cheaply in China. Well, yes, it can, but you have to do all of these steps beforehand to actually do it successfully and then potentially even run a business around it And hopefully you just don't have the one SKU. You then start niching out or categorizing out vertically or horizontally potentially in terms of, okay, this is a camping product. All right, let's find what other products we can come out with that our customers will like. And really that's what crowdfunding allows you to do. It's go back to your customers and say, hey, you liked my first product. What else would you like me to make? I mean, we've had some clients that have done over a dozen campaigns with us that continually keep reaching out to his community and say, hey, we did this product. What do you guys want next? What do you want next? What do you want next? And it keeps snowballing, basically, where more and more backers are coming into these campaigns because the client delivers and the client listens to his community.
Okay, awesome. All right, so yeah, let's talk about like results with your clients. So like, how much changed from like when you were running this agency and you guys probably had your systems or your processes for that to like now you have this Kickstarter thing in place or crowdfunding in place, and I'm sure it's a much more oiled machine. So how do you put some systems and process into like this where you can get more consistent results now?
Yeah, I mean, I am a person that doesn't write anything down. So everything's in my brain. So, I was fortunate to be able to bring in a guy, my chief operations officer, Joe Recommendez, who was able to take everything out of my brain and basically put it on paper. And then he was smart enough to be able to have all of the skill sets to basically be able to put operations and a process in place for us to consistently do this over and over again. And it's constantly being refined. I mean, we're changing processes every day, if not every week, in terms of, okay, here's something new that we have to do when we launch something, or here's something that changed in terms of how we integrate into analytics or tracking or PR, whatever it may be, whatever systems that we have, all of that's confined into one place. Onboarding of clients is consistent. Messaging is consistent. How we launch, how we do everything now is written down. So when a new employee starts, and I had 2 new employees start today, which isn't abnormal. I mean, we have new people starting every week, basically, because we're constantly growing and bringing on more people. There's a system in place to onboard them now and go through the HR process and all of those things that me as an owner and founder, I don't have time to do that on a day-to-day basis. Even the hiring process, I'm very removed out of, which is good, just because I'm everywhere and trying to think of where we need to be in the next year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year, wherever that plan may look like. And then, partnerships and doing these types of things. So there's a team in place that's doing all of that stuff on the back end. Whereas when we were just, a 5 or 7 person shop, it was just like, hey, just come yell at me and I'll tell you what you need to do kind of thing. Or now there's a system for everything, which I'm very, very fortunate for. So thank you, Jeff.
Awesome. So how did you bring in some of these like key people like the COO or like your media buyer that really helped kind of step up your agency? How did you find those people, or how did you make sure you hired the right person?
Yeah, so I mean, really, it's unique. Like a lot of these people I have known for years, and they were part of our marketing group. We started one of the largest, marketing groups in the world, or at least in the U.S., where it was just like a search marketing group. And basically there, I was kind of like, I was able to talk and have relationships and grow relationships within that group. And that's where Joe came out of. And then bringing in, our head of paid media, Rich, he had been at another company. I basically had to recruit him over and entice him over. And then our more recent senior hire, Adam, was part of a lot of our groups there. And now he's our head of email marketing, where he's already wrote a book on email marketing. I was like, hey, I need someone to be an expert on email marketing because it's such a huge component of our marketing team now, and outreach effort and cost per acquisition and all of that. So I was really able to bring these experts in because they were already part of my network. And I already trusted them and I liked them. And that's really the big piece is, do you fit in with the culture that we have at Eventys Partners now? Because that's a key component. It's not a 9-to-5 job. We have startups all around the world, and it requires us to, be on our toes and answer emails potentially at, 10, 11 o'clock at night and 4 or 5 a.m. when Asia's waking up, Europe's going to sleep, or whatever the case may be. So we still have that startup mentality.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that you mentioned the community as well. One of our previous guests, Ryan Carson, who started Treehouse, which is an 8-figure business, he said he basically started this company by doing meetups in like bars and just bringing people together. I think his was designers and developers in the beginning, but really building community helped him launch and bring people in. So that's interesting that you used a similar strategy for some of these people.
Yeah, we're a paid member of Treehouse as well. We use that internally for all of our design staff and everybody that wants to learn. We offer them that opportunity to be like, hey, if you're an advertiser, you want to learn some video stuff, here's a cool resource for you to, learn that or do design work. So yeah, he's built an awesome product.
Yeah, very cool. Okay. Another thing, so I wanted to go in before we get wrapping up. So you mentioned a couple of things. You did outbound in the beginning. As you guys have grown, you focused a lot on content and creating case studies and doing podcasts and things like that. Are those still your biggest 2 channels for generating new clients for yourself?
Yeah, those are big ones. And then, speaking engagements. I speak or keynote at a lot of places all over the world. So that's really been fun to, again, educate, because I think there's just a lack of understanding, especially in my market with crowdfunding and product development and those kind of things. So speaking's been a big one. But yeah, I mean, the outbound side of things is definitely a key component of it. And then just the inbound side of it, if you will, in terms of ranking for all of these keywords and services that people are going to eventually Google in their time of need. Yeah, I mean, that's the main component of how customers find us, as well as word of mouth. I mean, again, we've had hundreds and hundreds of successful campaigns, and those are our best brand advocates, where they're already getting reached out to through Kickstarter and through messaging saying, hey, I'm about to launch a campaign. Who did you use to do your marketing? So we'll put banners on campaigns if we find it's a good fit and our clients allow it. But really, we kind of operate in the background where the word of mouth is so strong, where we're constantly getting referrals from all of our clients of new companies that are coming to market with, a similar category of product.
Okay, awesome. Are there any strategies that you could share quickly that you guys use to either get more speaking engagements or to get more out of the content you guys are creating and being able to rank for them?
Yeah, content wise, there's a great site right now. I'm going to mess it up. I think it's called Answer the Public. So I just started talking to those guys recently with the data that they have. But from a content standpoint, between that and an Uber Suggest, really you can find out what everybody is Googling around your product or service that you currently offer. So that's a great place to start in terms of what content should I be writing on. Even a Quora, you just go to Quora and look and say, okay, type in your keyword and see what people are asking questions around. These are things that people need answers to, and that person's probably not the only one. Right? So from a content standpoint, use those 3 resources. And really that's been, a great starting point for us to be okay, what should we be writing about? And that's from an outward standpoint, start ranking for that stuff and you'll start bringing in the customers on the content that you start creating.
And for that to move the needle for you, what's the frequency that you need to be putting content out there?
I mean, we're publishing content on all of our sites, usually daily. And it's a lot of effort. We have a team just dedicated to our internal content strategies. So it can be, before we were probably pushing it once per week, but we saw the more content we were producing, the better our rankings were going up. So now we've moved it where before maybe it was twice a week, 3 times a week, and now it's daily for pretty much most of our sites that we're producing content on. But again, content can come in the form of many different channels, right? Where it's publish a case study, in terms of what we did, write a blog post, write an article, do a guest post somewhere, record a podcast, do a video interview, etc. So content can take many forms, but consistency is definitely the key.
Yeah, and I think a lot of our guests would share the same thing. I interviewed Rand Fishkin recently, and he said he was publishing 4 to 5 days a week for 4 or 5 years when they started out. And I think it's one of those things where you really got to focus on 1 or 2 channels to start out with and just go really deep with those. And this is an example where, if you really want to move the needle, you got to publish more frequency. That's going to be very difficult if you're spread between 4 or 5 different marketing channels and you don't have many resources.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Rand's the man. So yeah, I got to interview him at a Web Summit last year, but really excited for him. Obviously what he built with Moz. We've been customers of Moz for forever and really excited to see, his next adventure.
Very cool. All right. Any quick strategies on how you got speaking opportunities?
Really, you got to be out there. You got to produce the content and people will want to bring you in. And plus, once you have really good case studies, people want to know how you did it. And like I said, we're very transparent. So I'm all about, here's exactly how we did it. You can either hire us or do it yourself. But it's all about building your network. I do a lot of building on LinkedIn. That's a great resource, a great channel. I'm trying to write my own content on Medium to get that out there, but it's difficult between all the other stuff and running, a big company to try and actually find time to produce content and everything like that. But
did you find when you guys started then that you were getting a lot of inbound leads on it, or were you having to put outbound and say, I'm interested in speaking?
Yeah, it was all outbound, where you would just go to the site and fill out a speaker request. And then it started growing my network where I was like, okay, I already know this guy. He can introduce me to the guy that's in charge of all the speaking and the opportunities there for it. And then just being present. You've got to be everywhere and be open for interviews and doing everything. You got to start at the bottom and work your way up.
Awesome. All right. So we're near the end of our interview. Let's go through a couple quick questions. What's the one thing you did that had the biggest impact on your growth?
Ooh, good question. A properly optimized website.
What do you mean by that?
So the coding and the structure and the SEO behind it, being able to get my website to rank on the first page for all the services that we provided, that really was the impetus of us being able to understand and find that there was a niche that was untapped for marketing on crowdfunding. So without that and, without the right content on that site, we never would have been contacted and we probably never would have gone down this path.
Okay, awesome. Another question I ask a lot is like, did you experience a time when you thought your business would fail? And I know you brought up a section in the beginning where you talked about this, but maybe you could go real quickly into that and like what you did to kind of like get out of it.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of months and, I think it was closer to a year where, I wasn't getting paid and, I had to keep putting food on the table for everybody else that I was employing at the time. So yeah, it was tough early on to really survive as a digital agency. And I think I might have scaled it up a little bit too fast in terms of taking on more than I could chew or my team could chew. But I made commitments to these folks and salary and time and all of that, and basically sacrificed my own savings and everything else that I had at the time because I believed in it so much. And, my skill set and the people that I brought on, I knew that we would be better and beat everyone else that was out there. But there was some shady times where I had to take some money from people that weren't necessarily the best. But, fortunately, we're through all of that now and really have been able to scale up nicely and be continually one of the fastest growing companies in the South.
Okay. So did you feel like you were just over leveraging yourself? Like you guys were investing like faster compared to probably your profitability?
Absolutely. Yeah. And we just weren't billing enough as what we should have been billing for people.
Okay. What's been an area that you've like personally had to evolve in to grow your business?
Understanding crowdfunding and how these types of marketing campaigns are unique and challenging all on their own because there's a clock at the end of it. And there's a ton of work that my team does now to make campaigns successful. We have a 98% success rate for our clients that work with us because we're able to take them through a proven process of how we bring products to life. And without that, the education itself, every day I'm learning something new of how to market this, or, my advertising team are showing me unique things of how we can test different markets or advertising and those kind of things. So it's constantly evolving and always educating yourself, really. You can't stop educating.
Yeah. If you could go back in time and start over, what would you tell yourself?
What would I tell myself? Well, I don't know how far back I would go. I don't know. There's a lot of things that I did wrong, but I don't know if they would have led me to this path. So I'm someone who lives in the future. So, at this point, I'm not going to do anything differently. I can't change anything in the past right now, but there's no better time to start something than today.
Awesome. And Roy, like finally, where can people learn more about you or connect with you personally?
You can Google all of our keywords around Kickstarter marketing and find us that way. Or EventysPartners.com, my personal site, RoyMorejon.com, podcast, artofthekickstart.com, and some of our other product sites. I mean, basically just Google my name or my company and you'll find all the resources and content out there to be able to educate yourself on what we're doing and how we could help you out.
Awesome. And if you want to check out Roy, we'll get those linked up in the show notes. Roy, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your journey to seven figures.
Yeah, my pleasure, Jeremy. Thanks so much.
Thanks again for listening to our show this week. If you want to find out more about Roy Morejon and the lessons he shared today, or read our show notes, visit leadquizzes.com/20. If you'd like to start generating more leads for your business and get a free trial of Lead Quizzes, go to leadquizzes.com/podcast. Next week, I'll be interviewing Eric Sue on how he built Single Grain, $2 million in revenue last year. He's on track for $4 million. One of the reasons I had him on was because he's such an incredible marketer for his own agency, which I think is pretty rare. Just to give you some ideas of stats, he gets over 110,000 visits a month to his website. He gets over 80,000 downloads on one of his podcasts a month and 680,000 downloads on another podcast. Really incredible marketer. He shares a lot of incredible tactics that I think you're going to love. Please subscribe to our show so you don't miss this next episode. I'm Jeremy Ellens, and you've been listening to Journey to Seven Figures.